The most popular video on my channel is the Barbarian guide. Now, since I made that video, they have updated it with features that now work in world shape. So, we're going to redo it. This is the update to my Barbarian build, and I'm even going to throw in a few little items you could use if you choose to. So, in this build, we are starting with the Druid. Now, good old House in here is going to be our test dummy. And for this, we are going to start with Thorn Whip, because I think Thorn Whip is a very, very good spell to have. And we're going to go with Guidance. Now, if you're looking for a min-max build, this is not the one for you. This is a fun one, which is going to purely focus on being a tank and worrying in your wall shape. So, we are going to do something that looks a bit like this. Now, this would be my spread. I'd have 14 Strength, 10 Dex, 16 Constitution, 8 Intelligence, 16 Wisdom, 10 Charisma. And for your skill proficiencies, as a druid, I would probably take something like Nature and Animal Handling. For level 2, we are sticking with Druid. Now, when it comes to being world shaping, and if you want to purely focus on the world shape aspect, Circle of the Moon is your subclass. Circle of the Land is a bit more magical. Circle of Spores is a bit more necrotic. Circle of the Moon is your world shape one. Now, the extra benefit of this is Combat World Shape. This allows you to world shape as a bonus action. However, Circle of the Land can only do it as a main action. Same with Circle of Spores. For your spells, I would take Thunderwave, because you know how I feel about Thunderwave. I would take Long Strider, Enhanced Sleep, and I would take some healing abilities. Fairy Fire is a very good spell, which I think the world of, but it is concentration, and that will be lost in World Shape and in Rage. Okay, at level 3, we are finally dipping into Barbarian. This gives us access to our Rage. At level 2, we stick with Barbarian. This gives us Reckless Attack and Danger Sense. And level 3 is where we dip into our subclass, and this is where we leave the Barbarian behind. So, for this to work, we want to do the Wild Heart one. Now, previously I took Berserker. This time, we're going to go Wild Heart, and we're going to go Bear Heart. While ranging, you can use Unrelenting Ferocity and have resistance to all damage except psychic damage. This is phenomenal. This is a pure tanking ability. And from level 6 to level 12, we focus back on Druid, because that is how our wild shape becomes buffed. So at level 3, we have access to one more spell, and for this one, I would take Spike Growth. Now, I know this is a concentration spell, but this is something you probably want to use in case you don't want to use one of your rages or one of your wild shapes, because obviously they are limited. Spike Growth, you place this on the ground, it lasts for 100 turns, or until you lose concentration, and movement is halved, and creatures walking over it take 2 to 8 piercing damage. A very good way to chip off enemies, especially melee ones that are running towards you, and slow them down while your ranged characters take them out. At level 4, we have access to our first feat, and this is where things get fun. We are going to take Produce Flame as our cantrip, and a lot of people will do an ASI. Since they have patched this, and I believe this was in patch 5, Tavern Brawler now works in Wild Shape, and it uses the strength modifier of the animal you are in. So we are taking Tavern Brawler. We get to bump up something. I would do Strength, just because why not? And as a spell, I would take Protection from Poison. This isn't concentration, and it lasts until long rest. And it's just a good spell to throw up, to be honest, before combat or before adventuring around. Druid level 5, this gives us access to our 3rd level spells, as well as Wild Strike. So you can make an additional attack after making an unarmed strike while in wild shape. And for this, I would take Plant Growth, make weeds burst from the ground and smother the area. Creatures moving through the weeds have their movement speed quartered. Much like Spike Growth, this is good for just slowing enemies down and letting your ranged people pick them off, especially if you have like a Gloomstalker or you have a Assassin. You can do big damage against people while they can't even reach you. Druid level 6, and this is where we get Primal Strike, so while in beast form, your attacks count as magical, for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical damage, and most importantly, we get the Wild Bear. This is the best wild shape in my opinion to have. Take the shape of an owlbear that can rupture the ground and become enraged. The owlbear shape has a starting health of 65 hit points, and that increases by 2 for every druid level. So by the end of this build, that will have an extra 18 points of health. For a spell at this level, I would take Daylight. Again, it's just another utility spell to be used outside of combat. Remember, this isn't a build that's focused on doing lots of damage outside wild shape. This is all about getting into your wild shape, tanking and hitting hard. Okay, we are level 10 overall, so now Druid level 7. We now have access to a 4th level spell, and the only option here in my opinion is Conjure Woodland Being. This lasts until long rest, and you summon a Woodwode. The Woodwode itself also has a summon, so your one-man tank has now become 3 people. And you can summon both of these before combat begins, and they will just roam around with you exploring. Druid level 8, we now have access to the Saber-Toothed Tiger. Now, this can shred armor and regenerate hit points. A very good wild shape to have. Doesn't quite hit as hard as the owlbear, but if you want to just weaken a lot of enemies around you, the Saber-Toothed Tiger is OP. And for a feat, now we could buff our stats, but they don't really stack in the wild shape. So instead, we're going to take Savage Attacker. When making melee weapon attacks, you roll your damage dice twice and use the highest result. And another spell to help us slow enemies down. This time we're taking Grasping Vine. Summon a giant vine capable of dragging creatures towards itself. Again, this is concentration. It will not last in wild shape or when you're raging. But if you don't wish to use those and just want to throw away a spell, this can be very good once again for slowing people down and just letting your characters just pick them off. And finally, Druid level 9, and for me it has to be Mass Cure Wounds. And effectively, what we have here is a Druid Barbarian that outside of combat is very utility based, has daylight, can heal, and inside combat can just purely tank and hit very, very hard in wild shape. I'm going to show you how this build works. First of all, we have a few items to go over. Now, these items, I will warn you, there are not many. There are 4. There is some really good ones though. For example, the Armor of Moonbasking. Now, this is a very good wild shape armor. It gives you 22 temporary hit points once you cast Wild Shape, and while you have those temporary hit points up, all damage is reduced by 1. So not only does it help you tank 1 extra damage, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but can add up, 22 extra hit points on top of what you already have. And when you think the owlbear has 83 hit points, I think it would be, 22 on top, you're looking at 105 hit points in Wild Shape form. Very, very good. It also gives you a +2 to armor bonus, also to armor class, so while you're outside of combat, so if you don't wish to wild shape and you've only got a few little enemies to pick off, your armor class is going to go up by 2. And we have advantage on saving throws against spells, and this stacks into wild shape. Bear that in mind. There's the Shapeshifter's Boon Ring. Now this is a ring that will grant a 1d4 bonus to all ability checks while in wild shape. Now, I think this looks really ugly, but there is a thing called the Shapeshifter's Hat. Now, this is a bit of headwear that increases your wild shape charge by 1, which is really good, because if we go here, you can see we have 3 rage, but only 2 wild shape. So, what this would mean is, by wearing this, you would have 3 and 3, which means you can balance out your rages with your wild shapes before you have to long rest, or short rest, I should say. And then finally, there is the Corvid Token. This is an amulet that allows you to boost your jumping and flying speed by 1.5 meters, and you can cast Featherfall. And Featherfall's effect lasts while in wild shape, which is really good. So we're going to go find some combat, and I will show you exactly how this build works. Okay, so I did just find this weapon, this helmet. Now, this is when you rage, hostile creatures in a 3-meter radius must succeed a wisdom saving throw or take 2 to 8 psychic damage, and the targets receive half damage on a save. Now, I wouldn't pick this over the shape-shifting one, but if this is all you can find, then this is really good for throwing up your rage and just dealing some damage just for using your bonus action to rage. Could be a very good helmet to use, and this is what we're going to use in the guide because I cannot find the Shapeshifter's Hat. Okay, so we're now here in combat. Now, we are going to try and do this just housing to prove that this really can be a one-man army. We've left everyone else over here. So, before combat begins, we need to come and summon our Conjure Woodland Being. And we're just going to pop them, horrible janky camera, just here. Now, the Woodland Being is really good because she has the ability to do Spike Growth, which is really, really powerful. Her Shillelagh will actually entangle people when you hit, but most importantly, she can summon a Fallen Lover. Just here. So we are going to start this combat, and we're going to see exactly how powerful this can be. Big miss to begin.
Sought a fight, and now you have one.
Now this enemy has a sneak attack and it's really, really annoying. But as you can see, we are off to a very good start, minus that critical hit, but that's okay. Now, the idea of the summons is not to be huge damage dealers. The idea of the summons are basically to be meat shields, and to just stand in the pocket and help you tank damage for the rest of your party. So we're going to start with a Bear Heart. As you see, because of our lovely helmet we're wearing, we did damage to every single enemy. And we're very simply, because you have to use Rage and Bear Heart as bonus actions, our first bonus action has to be to Rage. You cannot Rage while you're in Bear Heart, or while you're in Wild Shape. So, we've Raged, we're just going to swing for the fences. There we go. And now we're going to play out the rest of the combat and see how our team does. So unfortunately this is a 2-turn setup for the build to work, but it is doable. So once again we'll try and entangle. They saved it, but we did do 13 damage. As a bonus action we'll just strengthen our shillelagh. And now we have our Woodwode, and again the Woodwode is a very powerful, it's a very good tank and it does do some decent damage. And you can see 3 damage. And now we wait for the lag, thank you. And of course they go invisible, because why wouldn't they? There you go. Because we're because we're raging with Bear Heart, we take half damage now. So we only took 11 damage from a sneak attack, which is really good. And 5 from an axe attack. Now we're not too worried about Halsin's health pool running out, simply because we are about to go into Wild Shape. As our bonus action, we'll do Cave Bear. I usually do Owlbear, but I'm just going to do Cave Bear just to show how it is. And now we can just start swinging for the fences. Once the lag stops. There we go, 23 damage. And 22 damage that time. Huge hits. And again, this is the point of everything. It's there to just tank hits for our team that normally we wouldn't have to take. There you go, nice 14 damage hit there. And our Woodwode is still sitting at 25 hit points. And now, we very simply wait for our turn. Now the good thing about having Halsin in Wild Shape is you have an ability called Lunar Mend, which basically means you can spend your spell slots to heal up, which just helps your tanking ability, especially between Rage and Wild Shape. You can continuously just top up your health points. Okay, so as I was saying, Lunar Mend. Now this is a bonus action. We can also do a multi-attack, so let's just do a multi-attack on this one here. There we go. And that still leaves us a claw attack, so we can then hit this one. Just like that. Now, I'm not sure if every other every other druid in the game has Cave Bear. And usually I'll do an Owlbear. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to let us die, and then I'll show you the Owlbear as well. But what you could do is just Lunar Mend. I'm going to do this at first level, just so you can see, but you just spend a spell slot and you heal for a certain amount of hit points. Very good ability, and it really helps you tank. So yeah, we're going to let the Cave Bear's health run out, and you're going to see what happens once your Wild Shape form does expel. And again, our little Woodwode, just here to help us chip away at enemies. as Sparks here hits us with another magical missile. And again, we're probably going to get hit with the sneak attack. So this might hurt, but there we go. It's going to be really good for getting our health pool down. Big 6 damage. 10 damage from 2 Barbarian hits is what makes this build so powerful. And there you go. We have popped up to House In. Now, as I said, we can wild shape. So if we come here, we'll now do the owlbear. This is my preferred wild shape, honestly. So, we're now going to start swinging again. 11. And 11. So 22 hits to a bear heart who is resistant to this damage. We were doing about 40 points of damage around, which is phenomenal. Now we have to let the enemies get into their positions. And yeah, minus the sneak attacks, we're taking about 8 damage from each enemy, which is just crazy low. Probably going to hit with a magic missile, of course. And this is why this is one of my favourite builds to do as a tank, because you honestly just take no damage continuously. It's so much fun. Because the combination of your wild shape and your bear heart already makes you really tanky. If you throw Lunar Mend on top, you can continuously top up your hit points, and you can have a character that can have a health pool of between 200 and 300 hit points a combat, just based on the combination of being able to continuously heal yourself, being able to wild shape continuously. It's an incredible build. As you can see, we took them out. So then we come in here with a Lunar Mend at 5th level, and we gain 28 hit points. And we can close the distance because owlbears can climb ladders. Who knew? And we're ready to start hitting these guys. See, 6 damage from a whole round from one enemy is just mind-blowing. Now, we are going to dash up here to this enemy. Here we go, and we're ready to now take this one on. And they have regeneration. So this is really good. It regains 10 hit points if it walks through a fine surface, but this doesn't work if you recently took fire. So if you can combine this with a Dryad ability or with Halcyon's ability, you can have a Wood Woad that continuously heals itself. And of course we get hit with the invisibility. Now the rogue is a little annoying because of the sneak attack, but it is easily doable once you've closed down the distance. Obviously, if we weren't up against a Bear Heart Barbarian, they would have gone down quicker, which means we could have focused on everyone else sooner. And you have to remember, we are only doing this with just Halcyon. If you pair this with the rest of your team, you have got a huge just party composition. And now it's time to attack. We're going to take on the rogue. Now, did we hit or did we miss? Because it lagged again. And we hit for 23, so you see we've done half his hit points in one round. Now, unfortunately, we did miss that, but that would have been a great move to hit. And with our Wood Woad, we can continue just chasing down this enemy. And missing, sadly. Now, it looks like Sparks is next to us. Oh no, he's still down the bottom. With his 4 damage. And that's why I love rogues, is the cunning action to disengage. It's such a good ability. And our heavy hitting Woodwode has become sadly ensnared, which isn't ideal. So we are going to close the distance and we're going to keep hitting. Now, as I said, you can throw enemies back. It's hit or miss if you do though. Unfortunately we did not, but we will come back in with a Lunar Mend and we're just going to keep healing ourselves up. Now, we are no longer ensnared, and we're just going to keep chasing this enemy down. Doing 11 to 14 damage, as you see there. And granted, this is a very long combat, but we haven't got that many... We haven't used any companions. It's just our one character. There you go, another huge 14 damage. Okay, we are going to go this way. Now, we're going to finish this one off. And because of our moveset, we now have the ability to do this. And miss. Of course we miss, but we will Lunar Mend. And there you go, we are basically back up to full health. Now, where's the enemy here? So let's take him out. And there you go. And now we're too far away. We're just going to let the summon disappear. And as you can see, Halcyon has effectively killed everyone. Finish them off. And now we get to finish this off. There we go. 20 damage with a hit. And this is because of Tavern Brawler and Savage Attacker. Tavern Brawler is buffing our hits as high as they can because of the strength modifier. And Savage Attacker is making sure we roll the most damage we can per hit. It's a killer, literally a killer combination. And this is the end of the fight. There we go. So, that is my updated Barbarian. It is even more tanky than before. It deals more damage than before, and it is a literal one-man or one-woman army. Okay, it's time to build our Barbarian, and this time a pure Berserker build. For everyone that likes a nice simple build, one of the easiest ones you can do. The main feature is the armor and stuff. So, we're going to start with our Barbarian, and we're going to start with our ability points, and you want something that's going to look a bit like this. 16 strength, 16 constitution, 14 dex, 8 intelligence or wisdom, vice versa, and then 10 in charisma. For your proficiencies, take whatever as always. And then it's on to level 2. We have danger sense, so you have advantage on dexterity saving throws, and we have reckless attack. So until your next turn, you have advantage on attack rolls, but enemies have advantage against you, so just remember that. If you roll with advantage, they roll with advantage. Okay, Barbarian level 3, and of course we're going with our Berserker. This is more of the brute force melee based Barbarian. So we're going to take this. And that brings us to level 4 and our first ability, score improvement or feat. And I would personally start with Savage Attacker. When making a melee attack rolls, you roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. Really, really good. Okay, Barbarian level 5, we have extra attack, so now we make 2 attacks per round, and we have fast movement, so as long as we're not wearing heavy armor, which we're not proficient with, we gain 3 meters extra movement. Okay, Barbarian level 6, we get an additional rage charge, which is always nice. 65 health at level 6 is really good, and mindless rage. So while frenzied, you cannot be charmed, frightened, or have calm emotions. Really good for helping deal with spellcasters, warlocks, that sort of situation that are going to try and negate the damage output from your Barbarian because they're not going to be able to be charmed or frightened. Okay, Barbarian level 7, Feral Instinct. You get a +3 bonus to initiative and can't be surprised. And if you pair this with the rogue who can't be surprised, really, really powerful party composition. Okay, Barbarian level 8. The key thing of this is we get another feat, so we're going to bump our strength up to 18. Now, Barbarian level 9, we have access to Brutal Critical. When you land a critical hit, you roll an extra damage die, as well as the normal additional critical dice. Really, really good stuff. It's basically an extra die of damage just for hitting a critical. Barbarian level 10, 105 health, so we've hit that triple figure total. We also have Intimidating Presence. Menace an enemy and instill terrible fear within them. So really good if you want to just scare enemies and stop them from being able to attack you. Not really something I've ever really used. I prefer just hitting things. But if you want to try and fear some people so they don't really do anything, there's your option. Barbarian, level 11, 115 health, and Relentless Rage. Once per short rest, if you drop to 0 hit points while enraged, you regain 1 hit point instead of being down, which is really, really good because it means you haven't got to waste a movement to help someone, anything like that. They'll just spring back, almost like the Orcish ability. And the final level, level 12, one more feat. And for this one, you could either do an ASI and bump your strength up to 20, which is probably what I would do. You could also take Durable, so your constitution increases by 1, not amazing, but you regain 4 hit points every time you short rest. There's also Great Weapon Master. When you land a critical hit or kill a target with a weapon attack, you can make another weapon attack as part bonus action that turn. Attacks with melee weapons you're proficient with and are wielded in both hands can deal an additional 10 damage at the cost of a -5 attack roll. We're going to take this just so I can show you how it works, but I would personally take the ASI if you just want to play it nice and simple. Your option is Sentinel. When an enemy within melee range attacks an ally, you can use a reaction to make a weapon attack against that enemy. The only thing is, this is only really good if you've sort of got your frontliner, Berserker, with another frontliner, or unless you're being swarmed at the back line. It's not really good if your Berserker's obviously all the way in the front and you've got a bunch of ranged people and an enemy sneaks through. So it's very situational. It depends on how your party is, in my opinion. So for now, we'll take Great Weapon Master. Okay, so that was our build, level 1 to 12 done. So let's focus on some equipment. Now, I'm going to have a few options for each one. We'll start with helmets. So my main choice for endgame would be the Helm of Baldur. I'm not going to tell you how to get this in case you haven't played the game, but it gives you a +1 to your armor class and saving throws, heals you for 2 hit points, and you cannot be stunned or critically hit. A very good helmet. The other option, the Flawed Helldusk Helmet. +2 bonus to saving throws against spells, and Constitution saving throws +1. Really good. For a cloak, there is obviously the Cloak of Protection, gives you a +1 to your AC, or I really like the Cindermoth Cloak. A creature that damages the wearer within 2 meters receives burning, which means they take damage for dealing damage. When it comes to armors, obviously any of the Barbarian clothing armors are an option. There's also the Adamantine Scale Mail, which is such a very powerful armor that you can get in Act 1, and it will last you a long, long time, potentially to the end game. But if those aren't an option for you, then you could use this. Exotic Materials UNT Scale Mail. The reason this is really good is that it uses your Dexterity modifier as well as your armor class. You gain a +1 to your initiative, and there's no disadvantage on stealth checks. So if, like me, you lost all your Barbarian clothing and you didn't get the Adamantine Scale, or you sold it by accident, this is a really good option to take. Medium armor, proficient with it, and it allows you to buff your AC. For boots, any sort of freedom of movement boots are really good. Anything that will allow you to walk across the battlefield. Anything that will stop you getting webbed or entangled. The other option is the Space Hunt boots, which allow you to do Dimension Door, which is just another way for you to take your Barbarian across the battlefield at short notice. Now for gloves, if you're at the very end game, then the Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength are your go-to. These will boost your strength to 23, which means if you wanted to, you could then play around with your stats. If you haven't got access to this, or you're doing a different kind of playthrough, then the Legacy of Masters are really good. Again, a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls with weapons, and a strength saving throw +1. Really, really powerful stuff. When it comes to rings, my 2 favourite for the Berserker, the Killer's Sweetheart. So when you kill a creature, your next attack will be a critical hit. Once spent, this refreshes on a long rest. So basically, once you kill an enemy, your next attack is a guaranteed critical. Couple that with things like Great Weapon Master, and it's a massive damage outpour. I really like the Ring of Regeneration as well. At the beginning of your turn, the ring activates and heals you for 1 to 4 hit points. Really good if you are playing as the frontliner. And again, if you were to pair this with the Helm of Baldur, you'd be getting anywhere between 2 and 6 HP back at the start of every turn. Really, really powerful. And for an amulet, I really like the Amulet of Misty Step. Again, it's just another way to dance yourself around the battlefield at short notice. If enemies sneak through to your more squishy backliners, you can Misty Step as a bonus action to them and help them out. Anything that will allow you to get around the battlefield would be what I would go for. The only thing I would avoid, and I can't remember what item it is, I think it's boots. Let me just double check. Yes, the boots are very fast blinking. Do not use these. Yes, it gives you a Misty Step type ability, but what it also does is leaves all your clothes behind. So when you teleport, you have no clothes on, which is fine for getting around the battlefield, but if you don't realize, like I didn't, and you just think your character's lost their clothes constantly, or there's a glitch in the game, then you're going to waste a lot of your armor. Hence why my Karlach build in my first playthrough has some very weird armors constantly. When it comes to weapons, if you're at the mid, like Act 3-ish, the Sword of Chaos is my go-to. I love this. Really helps with the buffing your hit points. So on a hit, regain 1 to 6 hit points. And considering you're doing 3 hits a turn, you can really build this up. It's 2d6 plus 6 slashing damage, plus 2 slashing damage, plus 1d4 necrotic damage, 24 maximum damage overall. Very, very powerful weapon to use. If you are at the very end game, then Baldur's Giant Slayer is the sword to go for. On a hit, you double the damage from your strength modifier, so in which case it goes from being a +5 to a +10. Or if you have the Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength on, it's a +6 to a +12. Really, really powerful. Very good for just making sure you damage people. And it gives you advantage on large, huge, and gargantuan creatures. So that is our Karlach build. I say our Karlach build, our Berserker build on Karlach. Let's go find some combat and we'll test this out. Okay, here we are. We are in our turn order, and as you can see, Karlach is actually joint first with my rogue, which is really good stuff. So for this build to work, it is very, very simple. Depending on where you are, make sure you have Great Weapon Master turned on or off. So it is currently off. If we turn it on, we take that -5, but we get 10 extra damage per hit. So to begin, always make sure you frenzy. Just like that. Now let me just make sure this is on. It is. Excellent. And we're just going to start hitting for the fences. And there you go, a massive critical hit, 49 damage thanks to Great Weapon Master. And we have a 75% chance to hit still, despite the fact we're taking the -5 to hit.
Sometimes the only way.
So you see they missed the sneak attack, which is really good, because sneak attacks do hurt a lot. And there you go, we took 7 damage, and 12 damage that time from a critical hit. Okay, it is now Karlach's turn, so we're going to swing for the fences. And there you go, 19 damage, an instant kill, and thanks to the Killer's Sweetheart, we are now about to do a critical hit on our next attack. Let's come up here. Maneuver ourselves around, and we're going to see a massive damage output here. So we get to toggle it, because it's a guaranteed hit. And there you go, another 52 damage. Okay, so, as you probably gathered, this build is so simple, it's just a matter of hitting a lot. And you see we've got another critical hit, and we healed for 1 health. Please note, Misty Step and Dimension Door will not work while you are frenzying. So just bear that in mind, okay? Now, if we were to do an enraged throw, you can actually throw any item you have in your inventory at the enemies. So I don't know if it will reach from here, but let's find out. Here we go, so we've got a 65% chance of hitting. And there you go, we did 3 damage and knocked them prone. Really, really good stuff. And the good news is that Frenzy works with ranged attacks. So if we were to come over here, Another critical hit. It's such a powerful build, and we're just critting like crazy at the moment. You see, they just hit us with a crit. There was only 6 damage. Okay, so what I'm going to show off is just how this build works when you just want to keep swinging. Let's say you've got a big old boss. You can do your first hit. You can do your second hit, and don't forget, if you are going to miss your attack, you can try being reckless. But if that misses as well, you can come back in with a bonus action Frenzied Strike, which also missed. We'll pretend it didn't, but that is 3 attacks per round with your characters, and it's just such a massive damage output. Obviously we missed 2 attacks, which isn't ideal, but 3 hits with a Barbarian with that high of a damage output, you're looking at around 50 to 70 damage per round. Now don't forget, you have other abilities like Cleave and stuff, you have Rush Attack, you have Lacerate. So let's say we just did a Cleave. There you go, so we did 26 damage with a Cleave. We healed for 6, as you saw, thanks to our lovely sword. And what's really cool, even when you use these abilities, you can then come back in, because they class as an attack, and do more attacks. And don't forget, if you're going to miss, you can toggle Reckless, and you can toggle your bonus action. And there you go, 39 damage there. And yeah, it's a really fun way of having a melee-focused damage-dealing Barbarian. It's such a simple build, but the best combination is the use of the weapons. And don't forget, the weapons I've shown here aren't the most optimal. So if you do want to min-max and you want to find those weapons that I just listed, as opposed to the ones I showed on the character, your damage output, your AC, your healing is going to be through the roof. Have you always wanted to have Karlach be able to be angry, hit things hard, and wield magic without multi-classing, or just any Barbarian really? Then this is the build for you. This is the Wild Magic Barbarian. So, very simple, pure Barbarian. So we start with level 1. And for your ability scores, we want to keep things balanced, so we are roughly looking for something that looks akin to this. 16 in Strength, 14 in Dex, 16 in Con, and then with these 3 you can play around with. These 3 should be your main ones, with Strength and Constitution being your main 2. Keep these balanced because there's no point having a negative because you won't get any bonus from it. For your proficiencies, take whichever you like, and we move on to level 2. Okay, now Barbarians are really easy and fun to level up. You basically just press triangle a lot. So for level 2, we end up with Danger Sense, so we have advantage on Dexterity saving throws. We also get Reckless Attack, which means we can attack with advantage, and this will trigger if you are going to miss your attack. But the con is any attacks against you will also have advantage. Okay, on to level 3, and this is where we pick our subclass and Wild Magic. So this gives us Rage Wild Magic. So enter a rage that releases all your magic rolling inside of you, causing a random magical effect. Gain resistance to physical damage and advantage on strength checks and saves, as well as magical awareness. Anyone within range adds their proficiency bonus to saving throws. Really powerful stuff. Now when it comes to your Rage Wild Magic, there are multiple options that can trigger, and they are random. So let's just list them. You can have Weapon Infusion. So weapon will do an additional 1d6 force damage, becomes light and can be thrown, and it will reappear in your hand at the end of your turn. Much like, say, the Dwarven Throw or something, where it will just bounce back to you. Magic Retribution, so enemies that hit you will take 1d6 force damage. Protective Lights, so you and any allies within 3 meters will gain a +1 to armor class. Intangible Spirit, so each turn use a bonus action to summon a flump within 10 meters of you. At the end of your turn it will explode and it will deal 1d6 damage to anyone within 4.5 meters of it. Bolt of Light, so as a bonus action you can shoot a bolt of light at a target within 10 meters, and this will deal 1d6 damage and blind the target if they fail a Constitution saving throw. There's also Vine Growth, so vines will grow out of you in a 4.5 meter radius and cause the terrain to become difficult for everyone to walk on apart from you. There is Teleport, so each turn you can use a bonus action to teleport to space you can see, basically Misty Step, you get Misty Step. And Dark Tendrils. So tendrils lash out from you. Each creature within 9 meters must make a concentration saving throw, or they'll take 1d12 necrotic damage, and you gain 1d12 temporary hit points. Some really good options there. Okay, Barbarian level 4, and we're going to go with, of course, Savage Attacker. I love Savage Attacker. When making melee weapon attacks, roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. Barbarian level 5, we have extra attack and extra movement, really good. Now means we can do 2 attacks per turn, and we can move a little bit further as long as we don't have heavy armor. And because we're not proficient with heavy armor, you probably won't be wearing it. Okay, Barbarian level 6, we end up with an additional rage charge, and we have things like our bolstering magic. So we start with our boon. You and an ally receive a plus 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and ability checks. Really good stuff. We can also recover a level 1 spell slot, or an ally can, and a level 2 one. So this is really good if you want to use your action to basically give your sorcerer, or your warlock, or your wizard an extra spell slot. Level 7, the only benefit here is Feral Instinct. Gain a plus 3 bonus to initiative and can't be surprised. And despite the fact it's the only bonus we get, it is a very, very worthwhile one. Okay, Barbarian level 8, we have another feat available, and for this one, I'll take an ASI to boost us up to 23. Barbarian level 9, Brutal Critical. You train to strike swift when you land a critical hit. You roll an extra damage die as well as the normal damage dice. Really good stuff, as well as allowing us or an ally to recover a level 3 spell slot. Okay, level 10. Now, unfortunately, we do get Unstable Backlash. While enraged, when you take damage or fail a saving throw, you trigger another wild magic effect that replaces the current one. So this is really good if you've got one that you don't really want, but it isn't ideal if you end up with one you do want, take some damage, and then roll for something else. Barbarian level 11, Relentless Rage. Basically, much like the Half-Orc, when you get to 0 hit points while enraged, you can revive yourself to 1 HP instead of being downed. And finally, Barbarian level 12. For this one, we are going to take Great Weapon Master. I would also recommend, if you wanted to not take the ASI at your 3rd feat, to take something like Sentinel, something along the lines of that. Maybe even Polar Master, if you wanted to use like a Spear or Glaive or something, but that doesn't really work with the weapon recommendations I have. So just take what you fancy here, but I would personally take Great Weapon Master. And if you're unsure what this does, we will go over it in the combat tutorial, but go and check out my other Barbarian Berserker build, and that will explain that. Now again, for items, because that was our level 1 to 12, your items are identical in my opinion to the ones you will use in the Berserker build. So again, I'm not going to go over that. If you want to see them, go and check out my Berserker build video. I break down everything there, but essentially you're going to want to use the same kind of weapons and the same kind of items. The 2 big ones for me is the Killer's Sweetheart and the Sword of Chaos. These 2 I think are must-haves. Sword of Chaos is amazing, and the Killer's Sweetheart guarantees your crit whenever you kill an enemy. So if you kill an enemy, your next attack is a guaranteed crit once per long rest, but so good. Couple that with our ability to roll an extra die of damage for a critical hit, and you can pop off with some amazing damage. So let's go find some combat, and we'll show you how this build works. Okay, so we're on our way to find our combat, but I just want to point out that your bolstering magic can actually be used outside of combat. So, for example, if I was to take Shadowheart, let's use Spirit Guardians. We'll do it at 3rd level. Cast that level 3 spell. There you go. So now that we've used that, you can see from the bottom we are missing one of our level 3 spells. If we come to Karlach, we can come in here. We can find our Bolstering Magic level 3 spell slot. And we can target Shadowheart. And as you'll see, it has not used any of our rage charges, but it has used that spell slot, or that ability, so to speak. And this will last for the entire thing. So you get 1 use of level 3. We'll take Jaheira, and we will do... let's do a Cure Wounds level 2. Not going to be needed, but this is just to show you. Come back in here, Bolstering Magic on Jaheira. And there you go. So you get 1 use of each one. So plan accordingly for them. You can also use them in combat, but you're probably going to be more focused on just hitting things really hard. But a really good versatile spell, or ability, sorry, to have outside of combat. Couple this with a sorcerer who can replenish their spell slots using their sorcerer points, or maybe with a wizard and their arcane recovery, and you can really continuously top up your spells. And you still have a frontline tank / DPS damage dealer. Really good subclass for the Barbarian that probably doesn't get used as much as it should. So let's trigger the fight and we'll show you the wild magic in action. Okay, it is now Karlach's turn. This will also be your Barbarian. So rage wild magic. Okay, and we have, there you go, magic infused your weapon, 1-6 force damage. So if we come in here, you can see we have a Great Weapon Master toggled. Now we could turn it off if we wanted to, and we have an 80% chance to hit, but we can be reckless. So leave it on, and there you go. You just see we did, what was that, 35 damage? Reckless attack again, and we gain 6 health points because of our equipment being the Sword of Chaos that heals you when you hit someone. So remember, check out my Berserker build to see the items. But in 2 hits, we have killed the enemy. We also, thanks to the Killer Sweetheart Ring, now have access to a critical hit. Now, as you see that, we can now choose to use Unstable Backlash. I really like the 1d6 force damage, so we're not going to. But if you ended up with something you didn't want, you could change it up there. Okay, it is Karlach's turn again, and we have Great Weapon Master still on, but we have the Killer Sweetheart. So we're going to hit Executioner. And there you go, we just did 37 damage with a critical hit. Now we can swing again, just like that. Again, you see we healed for 5 health, so back up to full health thanks to the Sword of Chaos, available in Act 3. Great item to have on this build. We're going to end our turn, and when we next get hit, we're going to use our Unstable Backlash, and we'll change our wild magic to show you some of the other ones in action. Okay, so we just got hit, Unstable Backlash. And there you go, we can now shoot a bolt of light from our chest. Right, let's shoot that bolt of light. So you come into your things here, and we are looking for the bolt of light. Now, only a 25% chance to hit because we're threatened, so what we could do, come in here, almost killed them. What we'll do is we'll run out here, take the hit, come to about here, and we'll do our bolt of light. Now we still only have 25 on them. Let's do the 36 on this. Now fortunately they saved, so they took no damage, nor were they blinded, but we can still come back in and hit them with our sword. So just bear that in mind. If you have the bolt of light, you can smack them with the sword, try and do your bolt of light on someone else, and then run back in and smack them again. Okay, we are back in, and again, no need to use our ability. Oh, not our ability, sorry, our reckless attack, because we are just hitting, even though we've got 55% chance. And we're dealing the extra 10 damage, and we're healing with every hit. Once again, just like that. And we've taken out almost their entire health pool in 2 hits. Okay, once again, we can come back in with another smack. And you see we are doing mass damage, thanks to our amazing sword, the fact we're a barbarian, and our ability to constantly heal ourselves. Once again, another 1 HP, so this entire fight, despite the fact we've been hit 5-6 times, we're only down by 7 HP. And thanks to our increased mobility, we can run really far, which means we can catch up with enemies. And here you go. Now, we need a 16 to hit, we rolled a 15, so because of that, we can become reckless, which means we'll have advantage, so we get to roll again, but any attacks on us will now, for the whole round, be advantage as well. So, and we missed, so that is the trade-off. You might miss again, and now, because we've done that, they will now have the chance to be able to have advantage on attacks against us. But, as you can see, we still have our Bolt of Light. This lasts for 10 rounds. So we can come back in here. We hit that time. Now, it only did 1 damage, but they are blinded. And blinded is really good, because we come in here and go to our stats here. Disadvantage on attack rolls, which means it is now going to be nullified. They had advantage thanks to being reckless, they now have disadvantage, so it's just a straight roll. And we still have advantage from being reckless, so you can really play around with that. Now, as I said before, we do have other abilities, like we can teleport around with that wild shape. You can use tendrils that will hit for necrotic damage and will heal you. Small little things like that. But that is why this build is so fun, because you get a bunch of bonuses. You're still resistant to physical damage. You still hit really hard. You still can be reckless, but you just couple it with whatever magic abilities that you want, and you don't have to use them. If you've enjoyed this build, I know it was really quick, but if you've enjoyed this, I hope you will let me know in the comments below, and let me know what about this you would change. Again, go and check out my Berserker build if you want to see a breakdown of items, because between the Berserker and the Wild Mage, also the Wild Magic Barbarian, I think the items are very similar. I think the builds work tremendously together. It's just the Berserker will have a bit more damage output, whereas this has, to be honest, probably on par damage output depending on what wild ability you get. But then you couple that with things like slowing your enemies down if they try and run past you, or you couple it with being able to teleport and basically having a free use of Misty Step with your bonus action. It's really a trade-off, but I do think wild magic is phenomenal. So if you have enjoyed, again, let me know in the comments below. Please drop the video a like, it helps me amazingly. If you're new and you're not subscribed, but you'd like to, that'd also be amazing, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.